I'm also going to be asking about our infrastructure. How can we get roads, bridges? How can we get things to last longer? What have you seen in other states? What have you seen maybe in your community, in your county? What's been working well and what isn't? Our transportation system isn't South Dakota DOT's, it's all of ours. We're trying to make better lives through better transportation. So by getting better, by hearing, by having good conversations, that's how we can get better. So again, we want to hear from you. I'll be calling on you and asking for your input. The meeting tonight is being recorded. So when we begin asking for input, go ahead and raise your hand. Mark in the back over there with the blue shirt on, he's got a microphone. He'll bring that around and just introduce yourself and who you're representing, if you would please. And then just, of course, we're going to start having a conversation. I'd also like to introduce a couple of our commissioners in the room tonight. Our chair of our Transportation Commission is in the back there, Jeff Karam. Thanks for joining us, Jeff. And Ron Rosenboom. Thank you, Ron. We also have our Secretary of Transportation, Joel John, here in the front. Thanks for joining us, Joel. So we've got a lot of information. If you didn't get time to walk around beforehand, maybe take a few minutes afterwards. We've got some great maps on the wall showing the upcoming construction projects. We also have a lot of handouts on the back as well. If you have questions about what all the handouts mean and what are looking for specific information, you should see the DOT folks with their name tags on. You can go ahead and visit with one of us and do the best we can to point you in the right direction. So tonight we're going to be talking about mainly the projects in the Rapid City region, but again, we're going to be thinking more holistically. What can we do to get better? Todd, can you maybe give us a little breakdown of what's in the Rapid City region and your key staff members?
Yes, sir. As you just make sure you're in the right spot. This is the Rapid City Statewide Transportation Improvement Program meeting. And for the DOT, the Rapid City region is the 9 western counties in South Dakota. We're representing our area offices. DOT, we have our region broke down into 3 separate areas. In the northern part of our region is what we call the Elkridge area, and that encompasses counties of Harding, Perkins, Butte, and northern Reed County. And our Elkridge area engineer is Mr. John Matson. Thank you, John. And in the central part of the Rapid City region is what we call the Rapid City area, and that encompasses the counties of Lawrence, Pennington, and Sudbury, Reed County, and Mr. Mike Carlson. Is our Rapid City area engineer. And the southern part of the region represents the Oglala Lakota County, Custer County, and Fall River County, and just a little piece of Pennington County, including Hill City, and Keystone is Mr. Rich Zocker. He's our Custer area engineer. And they will be available all night, as long as it takes. If you have any questions that you don't want to propose in the group setting, or any questions about individual projects, they'll be here as long as it takes to answer those questions.
So maybe a little bit about your region. I got the map up there right now that shows different colors and codes, just a little bit about what that means and what we're trying to achieve with that.
Everybody should receive a handout. If you haven't gotten a handout that is labeled South Dakota 2023-2027 Transportation Improvement Program Tentative Rapid City Region STIP, please get one. Thank you, Jeff, for taking that. Grab one. In this handout is a list of all the projects within the Rapid City region. And also, if you want more of a graphical representation of those projects, that's the picture on the screen is just a slide from what we call our interactive STIP map. And on our website is a map that actually gives a graphical representation of all the projects within this document. And you can click on those documents on the stretch of highway in that map and get some information about that project. So if you don't keep this project and keep it on your refrigerator for the next year, and you're wondering about a project in the South Dakota STIP or the Transportation Improvement Program, you can go to our website. The front page of that website is a map that looks just like this one here. You click on that map, it'll take you to that interactive. So very good tools. We can have people keep track of projects.
And the key to it is just not to put the tools in people's hands, but also the people. So hopefully you get a chance to know who Mike Carlson is. If you don't know him yet, John Matheson and Rich Zocker, they're great contacts, great points of contacts. If you ever have a question, feel free to call up. Our team is always more than willing to have a conversation and try to help provide clarity or answer questions or take input. So please use them as much as you possibly can. So as we think about transportation, again, the intent of the meeting tonight is intended to be engaging. We're not going to be speaking the entire time. We're going to be asking for input, hopefully have some good collaboration and discussion. As Todd mentioned earlier, we're going to have that opportunity to speak in front of the microphone or into the microphone tonight. Again, if that's not your cup of tea, we're going to be around afterwards. We're going to split up in different groups. So if you got different ideas or questions on safety or other things, please come over and visit with us afterwards. But again, we only know what we know. So if you're seeing things, you're hearing things, maybe you've experienced a couple issues, please share those with us. We'd help to improve transportation and safety overall. As we think about a transportation system, you have to fund it, right? The money's got to come from somewhere. So transportation is really funded through the federal aid and through state fuel tax. You can see what our anticipated expenditures are into the next 4 years. 1.2 billion planned in 2024. Anyone here driven Highway 44 near the Platte Winter area? We have a very, very, very long bridge out there. It's over a mile long. We're planning for that bridge to be replaced starting in 2024. Don't worry, the existing bridge is going to be there while we build a new one. But that project alone, that one bridge is about $250 million. So that's one of the big reasons you see that project and those dollars going up in that first year. As you look at South Dakota, we have East River and West River. That's kind of how we define things in our state, because the river really divides the state to some degree. So the bridges that we have that cross Missouri, a lot of those were built, 40, 50, 60, 70 years ago. And they're starting to show their age. If you've been to the Pier area, you've noticed that Lieutenant Commander John C. Waldron structure is actually under construction right now. So that's our first priority that we're moving forward with. Platte Winter Bridge will be next. We're also looking at the Forest City Bridge up near Gettysburg as another crossing, as we try to improve the crossings and ensure that we're managing those assets the best we can in the future. Anytime we have an investment opportunity, number one priority for us has got to be safety. So this graph is going to show you the historical serious injury and fatal crashes that we've seen here in South Dakota on all public travel roads. We were on an excellent downward trend, especially in serious injury crashes up through 2019. In 2020, 2021, we started seeing an increase. And that was something we saw nationally. Driver behavior played a huge part of that. We saw increased numbers of speeding, aggressive driving, and individuals not wearing their seatbelts and intoxicated drivers that were involved in fatal and serious injury crashes in those timeframes. Now, when you look at a graph, it's a graph, but when you think of it as people, I think it becomes a lot more personal to us. They're fellow South Dakotans, they're friends, they're relatives, they're family members sometimes, and maybe they're not South Dakotans, but they have families, friends, and relatives too. Our goal is a vision zero. And that may sound very grandiose, but I guarantee if we were to ask any one of you individually, is it okay to have 50, 100 fatalities on the roads? And then we're gonna ask, okay, is it okay if one of your family members dies on those roads? Your answer is gonna be no. So as we get into safety and start talking about safety, this is gonna be a little bit of a personal conversation, but again, as we look at safety holistically, there's things we have to do. We need your thoughts and ideas for what we can do to help improve safety statewide. 137 fatal crashes in 2022 is way too many. Now, the good news is in 2022, we were down a little bit from 21. And so far this year, we're down about 10%. When we started our meetings in Aberdeen on Tuesday, we were down 17%. So we're only down 10% compared to last year, because if you've noticed, we've had a few more fatal crashes in the last few days. As we think about crashes and what causes crashes, is it the roadway? Is it the intersection? Is it the person? Is it an intermix of all those? Those are things that we have to be thinking about as we move forward. We've tried different tools and techniques and innovations. For those of you that are familiar with that's our rumble strips. I think if you make that noise, most people know what they are. And they've saved lives. Whether they're on the center line or on the shoulder, some of the numbers up there show how effective they've been. They actually serve no purpose from a transportation standpoint. They actually are a detriment to the life cycle of that pavement, but it keeps people alive. High friction surface treatment is another technique we've used. We joke around, we got 2 seasons here in South Dakota, construction season and winter. And when you're not expecting a slippery condition, maybe on a curve, that's where we see an overrepresentation of crashes and serious injury and fatal crashes. So we tried this technique of a high friction using a very abrasive, very hard rock, essentially gluing it down to the pavement. Help ensure there's good interface and make sure that tire can stick to the pavement more often. Again, a technique trying to make sure drivers are staying on the roadway. We've tried other things and we're going to continue to try innovations. I think most of you folks made it through the Diversion Diamond Interchange. Did anybody not make it through the Diversion Diamond Interchange here at La Crosse tonight? Awesome, excellent, 100%. And everybody made it here safe. And it worked very well. And for those of you in the Rapid City area that have used that before, when we didn't have the Diversion Diamond, you know what it was like. You get traffic cube spillbacks, You couldn't make your left turns. People are taking chances when they shouldn't. And every time I've been through that, which is, well, 4 times now, I've seen pedestrians using it and they looked comfortable out there. So another good improvement, knowing that transportation is just not about moving cars and big trucks, but people use our facilities too. So as we think about safety, we need to be cognizant of that. We've got another one planned on 41st Street coming up. And of course, our 511 app. For those of you that aren't aware of the 511 app, will help you get it downloaded on your phone after the meeting tonight. An excellent tool that you can use to help improve your decision-making in driving in poor weather conditions, or improve your travel time, or when you're going to plan your trip based upon construction activities. Again, trying to put the information in your hands and users' hands to make good decisions. Now, Todd, I know safety is a priority for the department, but it's been a huge priority for you. We've had the pleasure of working together for over 20 years. And one of the things that I've learned from you is we need to be safer. What are we going to do? How can we keep people safe on the road? So you want to just cover a little bit what's planned here in the Rapid City region?
Yeah, just one thing I'd like to point out, Mike, is that again, you want to reference the handout that you all should have. This is the projects within the Rapid City region. And in that handout, there says Michael was referencing, there's a lot of standalone safety projects, and they're pretty easy to identify. I might point out those high friction surface treatments where we glue on some really abrasive rock to the roadway, really reduce the number of wet weather crashes we've had on that when we use that product. There's signing projects where we actually funded signing upgrades on county roads that will improve the safety of those roads. There's a shared use pass that the department has funded for local communities, get pedestrians onto the roadway and on their county path. And as Mike pointed out, rumble strip projects. But one thing I'd like to point out, again, is we start a little more in the discussion, interactive discussion, is that the importance of width of roadway to safety. On the slide up there on the map, there's 13 projects within the Rapid City region where we're making the road wide, which is probably not a surprise to everybody. A wider road is a safer road. For every width of shoulder we have on a road, we see a reduction in crashes. So the department's making a very substantial investment in widening roads, on either ending shoulders or complete regrading of projects to make a roadway wider. And that we're expecting a significant reduction in crashes on those roadways. So as you think about safety and needs on the statewide system, are there roads that we're missing? When it comes to safety, what are we missing on those roads? Project should be improved.
And the investment plan is, over $160 million, which is a huge investment. But, what's the value of a life? I think that's the other thing that we've looked at, and we continue to look at and try to ensure that we're doing everything we can to keep people safe and keep them on the roadway and back to their families. So this is the part where Mark is going to be ready to start handing off the microphone, because I think it's important that we hear from you on what opportunities you see to help improve safety. And I've got 3 areas. The first one's on the road. And the reason I'm focusing, or I'd like to focus on that, our number 1 fatal crash in South Dakota is a single vehicle runoff road crash. So that's our number 1 fatal crash that we have in our state. Our number 2 is at intersections. And it wouldn't be anything if we didn't talk about in the car, because driver behavior plays a huge part of whether you're on the road and how you're navigating down that road or at an intersection and making decisions. So we've had some great conversation in Aberdeen, in Sioux Falls, and I'm expecting the best conversation here in Rapid City, because it's the best group that we work with all year, but don't tell the others that. But I do really want to hear from you on what you think are the best opportunities. So Mark, you can be ready to go, and please raise your hand if you have some ideas, things you've seen in other states or things you've seen that work well here in South Dakota. The first one to be bold and to raise your hand. We've got a free highway bill for you.
I'll be a little bold. I will tell you, going from Colorado a few years ago, I was there when they first started putting roundabouts in. I will tell you, there was a lot of pushback on one of the loudest places in one roundabout. I thought they were built and started using them. Traffic flowed far better. There were far fewer intersection accidents. Roundabouts are one of those things that there's one thing we keep you got on board.
Yeah.
It's my biggest gripe about South Dakota. Read the signs. I mark the fatalities on the side of the road. I think 4 some of you died there. You guys can get it out. There you go.
No, I appreciate it. That's a great comment. You know, as we think about what is safe for an intersection, the roundabouts, or whether it's a real, or an offset turn lane, J turn, things of that nature, trying to reduce the number of conflict points or potential conflict points. Same thing out here at the DDI. Now, those conflict points went down about by half, with just that configuration. So great comment on that. And if you got any ideas as we get into the project location or project discussion later on, like, hey, I think you should really look at it here, please let me know. Got a question for you though. In Colorado, you said you were probably vocal against it and that you got to use them, and you, after time, kind of summarizing, they did work well and they were safer. What worked to help get the word out that you found in Colorado for the ease of or the use of the roundabouts? Did you find anything that worked there?
So what they did there, and I think the reason they were so successful, is they put the roundabouts in the most high traffic intersections. So it's one thing to put a roundabout in a neighborhood we're not using it. It's another thing. The one that comes to mind, area of Western Colorado near the junction. There's a major interstate exit there, 24. They put a roundabout on either side of the freeway for access there. So a lot of traffic. So you're gonna tell the talk came through the against it, they want to use it. They were forced to use it because that's the main access. So starting there, and then from that point, the folks getting used to it, getting to see how they function. They move it into town. They put it in several intersections around the city, and again, traffic just a little easier or fewer accidents. I think that was the best point of getting the word out. Put it at a high traffic spot. Let people see it. You're going to get pushback. You're going to get angry. You're going to get people that don't want it. Once they see what it can do, that's going to open up a lot of.
Great, thank you. Could you introduce yourself real quick for the meeting?
Yeah, my name is Ken Penn. I'm joined by my wife, who works for the city of Foxville. I like spending time with her, so. It's my background, and I was doing earlier. We own a trucking company in Colorado, so I have a lot of experience with DOT. We operated 50 trucks there, so I have a lot of employees, a lot of guys on the road, traffic and fatalities and incidents, safety, all of that was something that was very near and dear to my heart. With that many trucks on the road, I had, I want to say, the privilege of good fortune. We had 0 accidents in the entire time we owned the company with that many trucks.
Congratulations.
So I think that was the point of pride is for the fear of not being helping and you know how to take care of people that are training, how to keep.
Well, if you maybe have a couple minutes, if your wife will allow you to stay afterwards for a few minutes, I'm sure our operations team might want to chat with you about some techniques and tools you use to help keep your fleet safe too. I mean, again, learn from others. I think that's what we're trying to do. So I really appreciate it. On the think signs, just want to hit those up real quick. So if a fatal crash does occur on our highway, one of the things we do offer to the family, if they want to, is to do the installation of the think sign, essentially, you know, to remind us all to be safe. But it's also acts as a memorial for some of those family members. So those are the ones that you see out there. As they get outdated, we do offer for them to put one back up in memory of the loved one that was lost. So that's the reason you see them. They're not at every fatal crash location, but it provides for an opportunity for both, for a reminder for drivers and for the families too. So thank you. Who else has an idea or a thought on safety?
Good evening, my name is TJ Bloom. What he was talking about the roundabouts. Me and my father here, we come from the Pioneer Union reservation, and every day we see truckers coming through at high rates of speed, and makes them being probably the perfect place for the roundabout. You got community that sit right along the highway there, and you got trucks that just fly through. And just my thoughts on it. You know, this if they're traveling at a high rate of speed where it's dangerous, private police can't intervene because 9 times out of 10 it's a non-member. Someone has to get the overall sharing the ball. Very hard to get them to run from one side of the reservation to the other. But, I like what you talked about my mother lives on grass and salt approval to slow down with semis. And it's increased the community safety there. And so, yeah, I'd like to see a little bit more of those kind of spread out through the state. Whenever I travel, look at this community, it's pretty fast.
Yep.
So, thank you.
Thank you, TJ. So not just from moving people through it and being safer, but also helping slow some folks down through that corridor. Okay, thank you, TJ.
Just a follow-up, I think.
Yeah, please.
Through the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, are there some specific locations that they have speed concerns, or on Highway 18, is it, or in Pine Ridge Village itself, or, no, just many of the basement area where they're based on local county.
Pretty sure you've seen the area.
Yep.
Just a lot of great trucks, but there's a bunch of them, the rest stuff. We might already there. Big stations. They can get up to some pretty great speed there. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Anyone else? There'll be more opportunity too. Yep, we've got a couple over here. Great.
If you're in the city area, metropolitan organization is about safety development. I just want to thank the project that we constructed on East Highway 44 in East Rapid City. We might have to be up there.
Thank you, Kip. And, you know, maybe on that point, highways, when they're originally designed and constructed, were intended for, you know, vehicular movement. As, you know, we see more and more pedestrian movements coming, using our facilities or using the facilities out there. I invite anybody, you know, if you've got areas where you're seeing heavy ped movement, or like the Rapid Valley connection that connected a community to different access and different opportunities within Rapid and Western Dakota Tech. Those things really change lives too. It's not just from a safety standpoint, but it gives people an opportunity to get from where they live to higher education, to bus stops and things of that nature. So it's really a benefit overall. But if you have those areas, or you've seen them in other parts of the state, share them so that we can help try to improve people's lives. So thank you, Kip. You had a few more.
Yeah, Gary Styles, I'm president of the board of trustees in Hermosa, South Dakota. And one of the things I'd like to talk about, just mention, is the intersection of Highway 40 and 79.
Okay.
Stoplight there, the intersection there, and then also top side of Hermosa down to 36 and 36 and 7. Is there anything planned in the future for that? You know, we talked about down.
Yep. Great. Yeah. So I don't know if we have anything in our plan right now at those intersections, but you know, by bringing up safety concerns, it allows us to take a look at it. So that's something that our team can definitely take a look at. What's our crash history looking like? What are some opportunities for improvement out there? But bringing that stuff up, hey, we're seeing an issue here is critical. So thank you for doing that. Again, intersections are number 2 locations where we're seeing those fatal and serious injury crashes. And, you know, it's one thing if you're going past somebody at 65 miles an hour. It's another thing if you're going past somebody at 65 miles an hour, somebody's crossing at the same time, just more decision points, more conflict, speed and acceleration, deceleration. Do you have any ideas at those that you've thought of or seen, or flashing lights or anything along those lines that you've?
Well, you have, just north of it, yeah. I mean, the intersection. Just driving through there, it seems like you're sitting there at 40 coming out of Mimosa, it's at 40. And traffic, it's really like, saying is, you speed, you're going to 70 wrap, but most of the 79 wrap. But when when you're sitting there, traffic coming over the hill, some of them are going into the truck stop there, some of them are straight through. And you've got to really be paying attention because, they're just down the road a little bit. The other intersection before they get 79. So people are coming off there. I think it's just a place where the traffic needs to be brought to a halt and then we'll move on.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Yep. Let's take a look at it. Thank you. Brent?
Brent Harvey, City of Bellevue. One, and I was going to point out the section of 5 in Bellevue is still rural sections, open ditch, no curb gutter. Urban gutters will also start to see some your traffic along that sector.
Yeah, and Todd reminded me that that project is in the developmental step. And yep, yeah, it's going to show up. It's going to show up as golden on the map. So it may be a little help on that too. The ones that are planned in the next 4 years, they're color coded, and you'll see the color codes up there. And the ones we're kind of starting to work on and think of and start the planning process on, they're gold, and they don't have a year on them because we need to get through the planning process, and the commission needs to approve those as well. So we're just starting that planning process right now in coordination, and we'll continue to do that. But you are seeing more peds down in that area, pedestrians and folks. Okay. Okay, great. Great comment. Thank you, Brent. Thank you, everybody, for the conversation on this. We're going to keep going, so please bear with me. So transportation and safety only works if you actually have assets, right? If you have a road or a bridge out there. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the roads and bridges. This map is, went too quick. This map is one of my favorites. Those aren't rivers that are shown on that map. Those are bridges in blue, but you can actually see the major rivers. You can see the Jim River, you can see Big Sioux River. Again, it's just something that's really neat. You look at South Dakota, we're a very large landmass state and relatively low population density. We got about 5,700 bridges in our state. So 5,700 bridges. That's a lot of bridges when you consider our population of less than 1 million. So as we look at those bridges, a lot of it, we have that grid network East River, but you can see the major drainages and the number of structures we have West River too. Large number. Overall, state manages about 1,800 of those bridges. The local governments manage the remaining portion. As you look at usage and how many trucks are going over or vehicles, obviously there's more in the state highway system. We have the interstate, higher travel volume roads. So we're trying to maintain our bridges in good condition. And I mentioned earlier the Platte Winter Bridge, the Forest City Bridge, and the Pier 4 Pier Bridge. And we measure all of our bridges what we consider to be in good, fair, or poor condition. So just the general 1, 2, 3. You can see the condition and anticipated condition of our bridges in the next 5 to 10 years. Right now, we're sitting at about 97% of our bridges are in good to fair condition. You can see we're anticipating that to drop off a little bit. We've known that we're in pretty good condition, which is why we're trying to really focus on those major bridge investments that we have coming up. The Platte Winter Bridge, the bridge near Gettysburg that are going to be hundreds of millions of dollars to construct. And also trying to ensure that the condition of our bridges remain relatively good, because like any asset, like a vehicle, you don't change the oil, it's not going to last you 100,000 miles. So again, proper maintenance, timely maintenance activities on those bridges have been critical. And we're going to continue to do that. And we're also not just investing in bridges, but we're investing in innovation, ways to build bridges better so they last longer. As we look in the upper left-hand corner, there's no such thing as flood proofing, but there is flood resiliency. So we're incorporating new design features to ensure that our structures last longer and they can survive those very large events that in theory come only every 50 years, but sometimes it seems like they come every 10 years. But those events come. And if we have a piece of infrastructure that costs $20,000 per linear foot to construct, you want to protect that investment. So again, trying to find ways to be more resilient. Lower left-hand or lower right-hand corner is actually just steel, but it's stainless steel. And we've got 2 seasons, right? Construction and winter. And when winter comes, we use quite a bit of chloride salts on the roadway. when you put salt and water next to steel, it doesn't turn out very well. That whole chemical composition changes that steel and turns into rust. And when that rusts out, when things rust, they get bigger. When they get bigger, concrete spalls, it starts popping out. So by using stainless steel in our bridge decks, it's going to cost more to begin with, but we can save over 25% in the overall life cycle. Again, a change, trying to innovate, trying to find new ways to do things. And yes, in the upper right-hand corner, that is a drone. That is an unmanned aerial system that we actually use. We're using that for inspection on our bridge structures. We can also get additional information. We're looking at using LiDAR, trying to get 3D visualization of those bridges so we can do better analysis and engineering on it. Again, trying to find ways to do things better so that things last longer. Our pavements, of course, are needed too. Otherwise, you just got a bridge over water. It may be trouble or not, but I'm not going to get into that. But we do have pavements, and our pavement condition, as you can see, we try to maintain at least 80% of our pavements in good condition. You can see the line down there at 20%. We want no more than 20% of the yellow or red, because that'll be poor to fair condition. So right now, sitting in 2024, you see around 90% of our pavements are in good to excellent condition. As we look out into the future, we're starting to see that drop a little bit. So what are we doing? How are we trying to build pavements better? We're employing innovations. Some of that is a notched wedge joint. And I know that sounds really odd, but like anything, or dovetail connection, if you're a woodworker, how can we make those two joints tighter? Because water and salts are our biggest enemies here in South Dakota. In the winter, you get freeze thaw cycles. And with pavements and roads, it doesn't just freeze in November and then thaw in March. It goes through hundreds of freeze thaw cycles throughout the winter. And when that water freezes, of course, it expands and blows things up. So that weak spot's right in the center. Happens to be right where we put those center line rumble strips sometimes too. So what are we trying to do, and what innovations are we using to make that pavement last longer? We're notching those together. Again, trying to make that tighter seam metal. In the lower right-hand corner, that's a new concrete pavement opportunity that we're using, next generation concrete pavement. We're getting paint it and grind it. It may sound weird that you're going to grind something that's brand new, but it gives us better ride, better durability at the end of the day. Again, trying new innovations. And also in the upper left-hand corner, no, that is not a fish locator. That's actually something that we use to help with intelligent compaction. I know it seems odd, smart compaction. You're just hitting something, making it harder, but it's intelligent compaction. Thermal imagery along with GPS, make sure that the roller patterns, as they go over and roll that asphalt, we get it to the optimum density at the end of the day. Optimum density at the end of the day means it's going to last longer. Again, trying new technologies, new innovations, and again, trying to make sure that investment lasts for future generations. Now, Todd, I know there's a lot of work coming up in the Rapid City region. You just want to give a quick summary of the overall investment?
Yes, sir. Yes, in the handout that you keep referring to, projects within the Rapid City region, and that totals about $805 million worth of work. So that's quite an investment in the 9 counties in western South Dakota. To break that down, there are about 36 bridge projects at a cost of $113 million. Those are bridge replacement projects or bridge repair projects. There's 22 reconstruction projects totaling $516 million. So a very large investment in reconstruction of the state highway system, and 23 surface repair or preventative maintenance projects totaling $138 million. So a very large investment in transportation needs in western South Dakota. So what's missing?
That's why they're here. Oh, yeah, they're going to help. Todd, quick one for you. The 36 bridges, I assume they're not all in the state system, and some are with local governments, or help us out with that a little bit.
Good question, Mr. B. That's a good percentage of those from the government system. The department has a grant program called the Big Grant. It's a big program, a bridge improvement grant fund, and a large percentage of those projects are on at the local governments, counties, and cities. So we do pass that money on and are able to replace bridges on the roofs.
Yeah, one thing on top of that too is we're sharing the federal aid that's passed for the department or commission understands and is really focused on an interconnected transportation system. And it doesn't do any good to just have the interstate system run through South Dakota. It'd be a heck of a long 4x4 ride to get there. So we need to have interconnectedness. And of course, if you're going to grow grain on the back 40, you need to get it somewhere. You need to get it from the farm to the market. So trying to ensure that interconnectedness is there. So our commission has helped our local government significantly invest in their system as well. So big investment here in Rapid City, almost $1 billion. So that's a huge investment. And Todd's going to get into a few additional projects a little bit later on, be a little bit more detail. But for right now, again, I'm going to ask you some questions, so be ready. How can we get better? We're looking at our pavements, our bridges, and maybe lighting, our signal systems. Maybe again, things you've seen in Montana or Colorado, perhaps. No, but things that you've seen that have worked well. Things are working well here in South Dakota, saying, hey, duplicate this, do it more, do more of this elsewhere. So please, again, raise your hand. Mark's in the back. He's ready to come over, and we want to hear from you.
So I'll just keep throwing out ideas that I know. In the time that I've been in South Dakota, I've been here for over a dozen years, vacation and whatnot. The one thing that I was appreciated was the ruralness of the state, a lot of open roads in between cities. What I'm noticing as I live here is that those areas seem to be growing closer together. With that, we have an exchange between those cities because you could. As those things change, as those communities grow closer together, I think looking at speed and the speed impacts. We need to look at lowering. We need to find an example, Highway 16. When you drop off the hill over at Cloud Gardens, that's still 60 mile an hour zone. I think that could be reevaluated. That could be a 45 mile an hour zone. Solve a lot of problems from there to the top of the hill from the other side. There's a lot of areas that I see around as I drive around and enjoy being on those streets where maybe it's time to rethink a few things, suggesting speed limits. Obviously, keep them high where you can because the flow of traffic is important, but reevaluating those areas that are growing really quickly. Maybe we need to see about it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I think that's something that's being looked at nationally too, is where speed limits and how we set speed limits and things that are going to continue to come up. That's a great point. Thank you. Anyone else? I know this one doesn't get as much as safety, right? And it shouldn't, but appreciate it. Thank you. So, Todd, you want to go over some of your projects next and kind of hit on some surfacing and some reconstructions and highlight a few, not all of them in the list if you would please, but just a few. $800 million. I don't know. We have enough time.
It's only 162 projects I'll cover, so it should take. So, again, I sound a little like a broken record, but the handout that you should have received that when you came in the door, the 2024 to 2027 Transportation Improvement Program. My slides are going to reference the project, the number in that handout. So if you want to follow along, that would be great. I'll go through these really quickly. Again, just a very few projects within the Rapid City region. If you have questions on individual projects, just please seek out one of our area engineers or one of the other staffs with name tags, and we'd be glad to help you with those. So just starting with 2024 surfacing projects, number 10 in your handout is Highway 16A. That is what we call a mill and overlay through Custer State Park, where we actually mill off about an inch of the roadway and then put 2 inches back on. That is an $8.5 million project. And then number 16 in your handout is Highway 85 from Ludlow to the North Dakota state line. That is estimated as a $9.7 million project. Again, another mill and overlay project. Also in 2024, some grading or reconstruction projects that are significant for our region. Number 25 is the reconstruction of I-90 from exit 44 to 48. And that also includes the reconstruction of exit 46. That is a $58.6 million project. And also in 2024 is number 38, Highway 18 in Pine Ridge Village. That's going to be a complete urban reconstruction, new pavement, new sidewalk, upgrade to roadway lighting and signal systems. That is estimated. The cost of that project is $12.1 million. 2025 surfacing project number 76 in your handout is Highway 212 and Highway 79, just south of Newell, South Dakota. That length of that project is 10.7 miles. The estimated cost of that project is $12 million. And also in 2025 is number 83 in your handout, Highway 79 from Highway 20 North, 15 miles. That is, cost of that project is estimated at $7.3 million. So moving on to 2025, some significant grading or reconstruction project. Number 87 in your handout is Highway 385, West Rapid City. The project runs from 4 miles north of the intersection of Highway 44 and north to Nemo Road. The cost of that project is estimated at $35.6 million. Number 95 in your handout, Highway 16 intersection of Highway 16 and Neck Yoke Road, or right at Reptile Gardens area we just discussed there. Going to do a grading project there and modify that intersection into what we call a reduced conflict intersection. So if you have questions on that, we'd sure be glad to take those. So moving on to 2026 surfacing projects. Number 153 in your handout is Highway 34 from the Belfouche River north of Union Center. The length of that project is 20.7 miles. The estimated cost of that is $9.5 million. Number 159 in your handout is Highway 244 from Highway 16 to Mount Rushmore National Memorial. Length of that project is 8.7 miles, and the estimated cost of that project is $3.8 million. 2026 grading or reconstruction project number 143 in your handout is again on Highway 16, and this is in Custer, South Dakota. And the project runs from 4th Street, which is the main drag through Custer, north to the U.S. Forest Service office, or just north of Buckhorn Loop Road. Estimated cost of that project is $18.3 million. And also in 2026 is item number 152, reconstruction of I-90 from exit 32 to exit 37. That also includes the reconstruction of exit 34 at the National Cemetery. Estimated cost of that project is $52.2 million. So on to 2027 surfacing projects. Number 202 in your handout is Highway 34 from the Wyoming state line to Belfouche. That is cost of that project is estimated at $6.5 million. And also in 2027 is number 206 in your handout is Highway 18 from west of Hot Springs to Hot Springs. And the estimated cost of that project is $8.9 million. And last but not least, in 2027, grading and reconstruction projects, number 207 in your handout, Highway 85 from 7 miles north of Buffalo to Ludlow, South Dakota. Estimated cost is that project is $31 million. And that again is a complete reconstruction project. And number 216 in your handout is South Dakota 231, or better known to us who live in Rapid City, Sturgis Road. And that project runs from West Chicago Street to Knutson Lane, just north of town. Estimated cost of that project is $7 million. So again, if you have questions or comments, you can always go to our interactive STIP page. A little tough to get that address on the screen there. It's quite long, but if you want to chase one of us down, we can get you that address. So we also take comments that way. And again, it's a link to that interactive map. If you want a graphical display of all the projects within the Rapid City region or the entire state, it's available on that site.
Thank you, Todd. Just maybe hit on one more project that's not even on the list. One thing that we've been working on is a variable speed limit project. So anyone driven across I-80 in Nebraska? Anyone tried making that trip in the winter? It gets a little rough out there, and they've got and they deployed some variable speed limit projects, which allows the speed limit to be reduced during certain times or in certain very severe weather events. And there's some big benefits of that. Not only does it help reduce crashes, but it helps to reduce closures. My father, I'd spent a lot of time in the car with him. Anyone that drove faster than him was an idiot. Anyone that was slower than him was just stupid because he always had it right. So I think, as I drive down the interstate in what I consider to be poor conditions and somebody blows past me at 85 miles an hour, and I got kids in the back, I'm not a big fan of that. So, again, I think the theory behind this is trying to get folks traveling about the same speed. And we're very excited about that. Todd, maybe just where is that plan for, if you would, real quick?
Right now, the plan is already what we call final design, and we're heading to a bid level, Michael, in September this year, and then we should see construction starting after they procure all of the materials for the project. We should see construction starting in April. Hopefully have that variable speed limit deployed sometime next year. 2024.
And Todd, that's out west here on I-90 is what we're looking at for that first deployment, correct?
Yeah, if you're familiar with I-90, the Sturgis exit 32, it runs the corridor. We'll have this variable speed limit. This will be from basically exit 32 to exit 40, both the east and westbound lanes. So we're very excited about that, and should have it deployed late in 2024.
Thank you. All right. So again, we've had some good conversations so far, but we want to keep the ball rolling here. The time is to, again, get more comments. Maybe you got a specific project or location that we're not thinking of or didn't is not covered in the handout, please, we want to hear from you. So again, this is more time, more opportunities, maybe get more specific on questions you have or particular segments. So Mark, again, he's got the microphone. I believe we've handed out 5 state highway maps so far. They're very valuable. They're not free. They're totally free. So yeah, we got a few more to hand out, but please share your opinions, share your thoughts. Anyone? Brent's got one up here.
I guess I just had a question on the variable speed limit. A lot of your like Apple Map, Google Map have the speed limit. Does that get updated with the change or?
That's a good question.
So Brent, I don't believe it's going to be nearly as reactive as soon as that speed limit drops on the sign, then it's going to show a new speed limit back on your Apple phone, or I'm an Android user, so on my phone. So it's probably not going to show it up there right away, but we will have signs placed along that corridor in a higher frequency than you normally see on the interstate. I know some folks kind of get tricked. I don't want to say tricked. They don't necessarily know what the speed limit is on a road because you don't see a sign for 10 miles. And that's not our intent either. Our intent is not to trick anybody. We don't get any funds for anyone that gets pulled over. That's nothing that we have, but it will be along the side of the road. So you see the signs as you go alongside the road, a lot more frequency. And again, it's mainly going to be in some very poor weather conditions when you're going to see them. That's about the only deployment we're anticipating right now. Great question, Brent. Maybe something we can look at, Todd, and see if there's a way to tie in on that.
Yeah. Excellent question, and something that we'll follow up on. And you notice the more modern vehicles now, they do display that speed limit. So excellent question. We'll follow up on.
Just me again. I like your dad. I would do
You don't know.
Not gonna confirm or deny that, so exactly the same way. My kids were this. Two things on speed limit or the variable speed limit. Are they going to be the digital boards that look very similar to speed limit signs that are now? Like seeing them in the places that.
Yeah, the intent is for the average driver, I don't think you're going to notice a difference. You think it's just a normal sign out there. They're going to look black on white. Sorry. I almost spilled my traffic course there. Yeah.
Now leads to the second question, and it's a problem that I have, and this is terrible to admit as a former driver, responsible for a lot of trips on the road. I noticed I miss speed limit signs a lot, and in areas that I don't know, I will all of a sudden realize that's why I'm going, what's the speed limit? Don't know, don't need a sign for miles. But one thing that I talked to my wife about this for several trips of driving across the country, those signs are always small, and would there be a possibility for that? Painting speed limits in the highway, in the lane as you're driving. And then you lay lines out for separating the distance. To me, seems like that would be something easy to do because it's right in your line of sight. You're not having to go to the side of the road and also by 2-foot sign that you may or may not see. So,
yeah, great question, great comment. Let's look into it. I know as you went through La Crosse Street, you probably saw the in pavement markings, which was new. I think that's one of the first installations I've seen. So I think that's very helpful. Maybe that's something we can look at too. Thanks. One thing we do run into a little bit with our pavement markings, and I want to see how this one fares over the winter, is we do put our cutting edges on our plows down. So they tend to peel some stuff off. So I'm hopeful that this one fares very well over the winter. And we don't see Mike Carlson out there, during the winter or the spring with a paint can. But if you do, you can wave and honk and throw a cup of coffee up. Don't run over Mike. Yep.
just get it below the vehicle services of parking.
Yep. One thing that for those who didn't catch first part is grinding in the pavement markings. And we are doing quite a bit of that. Still, when we use tape and some other things, and even just with the amount of downward pressure, sometimes we still get in there and pull those out. But yeah, we're doing quite a bit of that. Maybe something we can look at for speed limits too. Great, thank you. On the back, we'll get to you in just a second.
Scott with Rapid City. I think I lied to you when I said I was familiar with variable speed limits on Interstate 80. But I'm familiar with them on 90 out between Buffalo and Sheridan.
Okay.
Is that what we're trying to replicate with message boards?
It wouldn't necessarily be with message boards. You'll actually see a speed limit sign. 99.8% of the time will be just what the speed limit is today as you drive out there. but in very poor weather conditions, and there's a process we need to go through and whether or not we're gonna drop it, how we're gonna drop that speed limit, be dropped down incrementally. So one of the cool things about it is it's using kind of crowdsourcing, if you want to call it that. It's helping us to see what the traveled speed is, what people are comfortable driving out there, or we're seeing people kind of dropping their speed lower and lower and lower. And we can set that speed limit lower as they go up, and then again, bring it back up slowly and incrementally, but it'll actually be on a speed. It will actually be alongside the roadway. You won't even notice a difference with the speed limit sign unless you're really looking for it, I think.
Okay, what I noticed that I drove for enterprise 40. So I drove a couple 100,000 miles moving passenger cars. And out there between Buffalo and Sheridan, it would have a 65 mile an hour speed because of poor road conditions or fog. But a lot of times the condition had changed. It was perfectly clear that we had the determination to move it up.
Yeah. Great question. And that's something we want to try to avoid. It might happen where, you know, we're things all of a sudden started clearing up and the speed limit's still a little bit lower, but that's something we need to be working on. So it won't necessarily be a computer doing it. There'll be actually people that are monitoring what the speed conditions are, weather conditions. So we'll have cameras to help with the visualization of it. We'll also have our highway patrol involved in that decision as well. So the folks that are on the road and our team that are out there on the road and dropping those speed limits. So it's going to be human intervention with a lot of technology to help guide decisions. So, you know, our intent isn't to have it totally clear and it's a beautiful, you know, winter day out there in South Dakota and those speed limits get dropped and they stay dropped forever. That's not the intent at all, but there could be times, I think, you know, with the stretch in Wyoming, they got a longer stretch that they've got this on. This is a relatively short stretch of highway, so hopefully you can be more reactive, and that's our intent, to be more reactive with it. But great point. I completely understand.
Well, I have another, that's kind of a safety concern.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm the only one that ever noticed it, but when you do building projects, like I said, I drove for enterprise. I drove, you know, Toyota Coronas and Nissan Armadas and big little cars. There were some tire treads on those cars that were just like this down the highway. And when there was any ice involved, a lot of times you just turn around.
Okay. Maybe on our mill and overlays, kind of how often or how quickly do we try to get that surface? It doesn't happen immediately. Generally, there's a time frame, but normally not in the winter. I don't think we're going to have that.
No, very good comment. And typically in South Dakota, when our contractors do those mill and fills or mill and then replace them with more asphalt concrete, there's a requirement that within 14 days, typically, that they start that milling, they have to start that paving operation. So we try to limit the amount of time you have to drive on that mill surface. And then we require the contractor to have that surface covered up by winter. So we don't carry on mill surface through the winter months. So that would alleviate, hopefully, I mean, we could get into some early fall, maybe a free fall snowstorm, but we would typically wouldn't have that condition.
Maybe one thing to add on that too, Todd, part of the reason we have the 14-day requirement in there, August, we want to get it covered. But we're using that material we took off there back in the new mix. We're recycling a lot of that. So it takes some processing time to get that material. And of course, you're talking a longer road. It could take them quite a while to get through that milling and get that stockpile and recycle it back in our mix, but that's part of it. And I think we have heard from folks concerns with, you know, some of that vehicle wander. And you're right. I mean, it could be the same car, different tires, make a little bit of a difference, or even tire pressure. Sometimes if they're overinflated in this tire or underinflated in this tire, there tends to be a little bit of wander out there. And I know we've heard that before. On our concrete pavements, you'll actually see we've got, it kind of looks like it's mill, right? You got lines going in the direction of travel, longitudinal lines. We've heard a little bit of that too and done some micro milling to help in some of those locations. You got specific spots where you've noticed it, let us know. We can take a look at it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
My problem. Wyoming on 80. They have the heat sign. Okay, this sign said the next 20 miles.
Just give them that heads up that there's going to be something different than what you normally expect. And Todd, I think we're gonna have dynamic message boards that'll help us with that as well. If I remember correctly, help me out a little bit.
I'm not exactly sure. I assume their design will be very similar to our dynamic message boards that we'll have at the beginning of this quarter. That will also notify you there's a variable speed limit, that there's a speed limit change as you approach that quarter. So everything comes.
Thank you very much. That helps, I'm sure. Just to let you know things are gonna be different, right?
Just one more thing, local travel in some of the bigger cities, I mean, but I can come to a big intersection and we thought. But anyway, it actually marked right on the lane. Like if you want to go on I-10 west, here, you want to go on I-10 east, here. Here. Thing. Get right on the road.
Thank
A
you.
lot easier than trying to look.
Yeah, taking your eyes off the road, especially if you got traffic stopping in front of you, quick stops and everything. And that's, again, first one I've seen that we put in was out here. So that's something that we need to look at a little bit more. Should we have more locations of that, helping drivers know where they're at? So they're not blindly following the GPS unit either, which, it's kind of been an issue with folks as well. When you just blindly follow it, hopefully there's that reinforcement. You're on the right stretch. That's a great point. Thank you. Anyone else? Well, Rapid City region did not disappoint. I'm not going to rank you with the other regions. That wouldn't be unfair. But on the same sense, it's been a great conversation tonight. Really appreciate it. If you weren't comfortable speaking with a microphone or not comfortable speaking up or have more ideas that come up, you can see our safety trend chart way over there in the corner, right next to that beautiful green tree. Mr. Mark Leiferman, who's our project development engineer, is going to be over there, share more ideas with him so we can get him back. This is Levi. He's the person that's leading the charge here. He's our STIP coordinator. So big thanks for Levi for setting everything up, coordinating everything. I got a tremendous team, and Mark Rice in the back, he's been helping as well. I got a great team here with DOT. And Craig Smith, I didn't introduce Craig. I want to wait till the end. So if there's any winter related or winter operations related questions, he's your guy to go to. Or operations related things. I think we talked a little bit about your fleet safety, some of the things he implemented. If Craig can catch you on the way out, I think that'd be a great thing, kind of learn from what you've got. Mike Carlson, which he left. I can always rely on Rich and John. So Rich and John, they're going to be over at the maps over there, the construction maps. We've got specific questions on construction contracts. They're going to be over there. I'll be up front and we'll be managing and monitoring the online portion as well. So maybe just quick count here tonight. How many folks do we have, Mark?
26 in attendance.
26 in attendance. And then our folks that are online, appreciate you tuning in tonight. If you would like to watch this again tomorrow, it will be up online. So if again, you want to take a watch again tomorrow, you're more than welcome to. But again, thank you for coming out. Put your seatbelts on, drive safe, put your phones away as you head out tonight. Every life counts, and we're trying to make better lives or better transportation. So thank you, everybody tonight. Appreciate it. Have a good night.